Going to introduce himself and tell us why here he is for. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
May you introduce yourself to our audiences?
Well, my name is Jesse, Jesse Chalo from Nairobi, Kenya. I was born in Nairobi, raised in Nairobi, done most of my projects in Nairobi. I've managed to tour a few countries, about 38, done film in different African countries, Tanzania, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Portugal, France. I've done a few things in different places, and I'm still trying to do more before I get to 35.
What can you tell us about your education background?
My what?
Education background?
Well, I didn't study film. I never went to school to study film. And the reason is because growing up, I used to love watching movies. I used to go in those small local cinemas to watch movies. And I used to love that a lot. And I really wanted to become a filmmaker. I really wanted to become, I wasn't sure when I was growing up, I wasn't sure that I want to be a director or an actor. I really loved acting. So I wanted to become a filmmaker, but my parents didn't want me to become a filmmaker because, like most of the African parents, people don't believe that you can make money through art. And my parents were very skeptical. They're like, no, you can't. Having a degree in filmmaking, what is filmmaking? So instead, I just went to study journalism because it was closer to what I wanted. There are cameras, there are things that I love. So I went to study journalism, and that's the degree I have in journalism.
And then you became a filmmaker.
Yeah, when I joined campus, I started becoming a filmmaker in high school because I was taking part in drama in the drama club in high school, and I was an actor in a school in one of the rural areas in Kenya. So every time we went on holiday, I used to go to theaters and watch actors acting, learn something from them. And I met a very good friend of now he's a very good friend of mine. I met him. He's a very big theater director in Kenya. I met him in Kenya, and I told him I wanted to become an actor. He put me on stage. I did a couple of plays, but every time I used to act, I always corrected my fellow actors. Like, no, I don't think you should do that. I think if you made this movement, if you delivered your emotions this way, it would be better to the audience. So the director told me, Jesse, you are not meant to be a director. You're not meant to be an actor. You're meant to be a director. You're more, you have a lot to give as a director than an actor. So that is how I switched, and I started becoming a director. I never directed any stage play. So what happened is he introduced me to someone, a TV director in Kenya who was doing a very big TV show, and they mentored me. I went on their sets, learned a few things, and that is how I became a filmmaker. So from high school into campus, joining campus, during my break, I used to sneak in out of class a lot of time. I used to miss a lot of lessons because I'm out making movies or watching people making movies. So that is my education. My education is more on the ground. It's more hands-on. Yeah.
And in your country, you started even Jesse K films. That's what I heard. You don't have a plan to have those films around there. And the specific thing I may talk about is, let me switch to the other idea, that the system. I read that. What can you tell me about that show?
The system is a very, well, people say it's the biggest TV series in Kenya at the moment, and I believe it because it has all the top actors that you can think of in the country. I went out when I got the script. I created the idea back in 2011, but I didn't have money to shoot it, so I shelved it and I gave 2 writers to write it. So the writers wrote it, but I never really followed up with them to find out how it's doing. Then we lost communication in a very long time. Then the story went to one of a very good friend of mine. He's Indian. He read the script and he called me. He's like, I love your script and I want to finance it. I'm like, which script? He told me that
you forgot it.
I had forgotten about it. It was 2011. I'd forgotten about it. He told me the system. I told him, oh, okay. I don't know that it's written, but I know there's something called the system there. Then he told me, I have the scripts, I've been sent the script and I like it. So he called me in the office and we started talking about it. And one of my greatest passions in film is getting the best out of everybody and trying to tell a story as natural as possible, making people relate to the film and to relate to the picture that you're selling. So when I read the script, I was very amazed by what the actors did. So what I did is I went out and looked for people who really look like politicians. If you meet them in the streets today, you'll think they're politicians. So those are the actors I went for. So most of them are very experienced. I have one actor, two actors, no, actually two. I had two actors who've starred in Hollywood films. One starred in Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie, and another actor had starred in a movie called The First Grader. It's a Hollywood movie. It's a political show. It basically covers what is happening in Africa, not only in Kenya, because the first season is just how Kenyan politics can affect the region. So as it grows, it ends up becoming a pan-African political story, with how Western countries come in for oil, with how Western countries invade Africa to come and get the good resources, and how they cause conflicts in Africa. So that is basically the story. So it's a very intense story that is going to have like 4 seasons, and then I kill it.
Do you have a plan to be a politician? You know why I said that? In Africa, if you take George Weah, a footballer, actually very famous Inter Milan guy, AC Milan guy, was elected president of Liberia, a footballer. And in different parts of the world, footballers and actors as well are coming to this stage of politics. And you're a filmmaker, producer, and director, and you're touching some corners in politics. And do you have a plan to be president of Kenya?
President of Kenya is a bit ambitious, but what I like, I see myself as I don't really have to hold a political office to make a difference in my country or to make a difference in Africa. I want to make a difference through the lens. I want to tell my stories for people to see the difference. So if politics is affecting Africa, I'll do movies that I will try and address that through cinema, so that people can see. Africans, we're very visual people. We love seeing things. So I really don't need an office, a political office, to address that. So I will stick to movies, and if there's anything and any political thing that I need to address, I will address it through the camera.
And an actress in Kenya, Noami, talked about you on some written documents, a tweet. You know what she said? There are wonderful filmmakers and directors in Kenya, and Jesse is one among them. And he respects the quality of individuals and wants to sell his vision to actors and actresses. Do you agree with that? If you don't have that quality, what does that mean for you?
I agree. Because one of the things that most African, especially young directors like me in Africa, what most African young directors lack is the relationship with actors. And once I call for actors to come in my movie or in any project that I'm doing, I love relating with them. I love talking to them and getting the best out of them. Because you might have acted in Hollywood movies, you might have acted alongside Denzel, but there's always another level that you can go to. So my desire as a director is always, no matter, even if you gave me Denzel Washington today, I will try and get him to another level. So that is my desire. Every time I work with an actor, and as good as they are, I still want to get the best out of them. So that is why most of the actors in Nairobi love me.
In India, Bollywood is there. In the United States, Hollywood is there, and Nollywood of Nigeria is there. Do you have a plan to establish Kenyawood or something like that in Kenya? Do you have that plan as well?
There's something called in Kenya. There's something called Riverwood, but I'm not really. My mind is not really in trying to establish something in Kenya. My mind is trying to take African stories to the world. Because we have Indian stories in Africa, we have Hollywood stories in Africa, we have French, British stories in Africa. But how many African stories do we have in those countries? So if there's one thing I really want to establish, is African stories to the world. That is my target.
Do you think the film industry in Africa in general and in Kenya specifically is getting a good progress? If not, what do you think is the problem for that, and what would be the solution for that problem as well?
Well, I will answer that question in two ways. There's progress, that is a guarantee. There's a lot of progress in African cinema. Just in the last Oscars that ended, we had so many African movies that were shortlisted. We had movies from Mali. We had movies from, we had a movie from Kenya called Supermodo, a very brilliant movie done by a director friend of mine. And we had a movie from South Africa, See You the Winter Into My Skin. We had so many movies shortlisted for the Oscars, but unfortunately none of the African movies made it there. I don't know why, because they're good movies. And I see progress in Africa. I really see a lot of progress in Africa. And what will really help us grow, or what is really stopping us to grow, is greed. Most of the filmmakers are very greedy. They don't want to do things professionally because they want to keep all the money to themselves. You don't want to have a good art director. You don't want to have a good cameraman. You don't want to have a good makeup person because you want to keep all the money. You are trying to save so that you can buy a beautiful car, or you can live in the best areas of your neighborhood. That is one of the things that is affecting African filmmakers, greed. And also, African governments don't support art. Everywhere in Africa that I've been, apart from maybe South Africa and Nigeria a bit, but these other countries, the government really doesn't support art. On Twitter, on newspapers, on TV, they will act like they support art. But when you go to the behind the scenes, they don't really support art.
What do you think? The reason behind their failure? Do you think the government fears, the art?
I don't think the government fears the art. I think the government, if the government would put more, you see, we have a lot of unemployment in Africa. The rate of unemployment in Africa is huge. And if government started seeing the film industry as a source of employment, then I think we'd change a lot of things in Africa. Because one movie can employ up to 200 or 300 people. One movie can employ 200 people and keep them busy for a month. So if you support the film industry in your country, and in a year you have like 10, 20 movies, how many people have you employed? Those are so many people that you've employed. So, and I also don't think the government take art seriously. They just do it because it's for PR. It's just PR, but they don't really support art, because most filmmakers really struggle, even to get financing from African governments. You go there with a movie, nobody will fund you. But someone else goes with a proposal for farming, they'll get money. You have a very good proposal for a movie, they won't give you the money. So they don't really take art seriously. And I think if government started taking art seriously, I think Africa would compete.
Yeah, many African countries do have culture and tourism ministries and of arts, whatever. But like you said, there are gaps that I see. And talking about films, the cinema industry, the Hollywood produced Wakanda on land, the Black Panther.
Yeah.
And it is probably around Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, that territory.
Yeah.
On the ground, on African soil, they produced that smart film. And like you said, the greed is there. And what can you say about that?